Hey, real quick, if you've been in the gym for 2 to 3 years and you've noticed that you're not really progressing that much anymore, you've hit a plateau, I'll explain why. I'll put you down right here. So if we were to start from the beginning, if this is you right here, when you first start working out, you suck. You're not that good. And so to get good at things like lifting, like everything in life, you have to do a lot of volume. What I mean by volume is that you're doing a lot of reps, a lot of sets. You're doing a lot of sets per workout in order to get good, to go from sucky to good at working out. And so you will do a lot of volume. You'll do 2, 3, 4, 5 working sets per exercise, not with the intention of getting good, but you just think that more volume is better, which in the beginning is true. And so you're the skinny guy who wants to build muscle. You will train with a lot of volume for months and years on end with the objective of getting jacked. And so you will do lots of sets. Like I said, 3, 4, 5 sets per exercise, and you'll do 5 different exercises per muscle group in order to start building that amount of muscle. And you'll do this high volume in order to build more muscle. Now, assuming that your training, your diet, and your recovery are all dialed in and you're doing each of these things consistently, you're training as hard as you possibly can every workout, you're getting in the right meals, and you're sleeping enough. If you're consistent with these things, you then get to a stage where you're not at your final physique goal yet, but you have seen improvements. And so maybe you don't look like this guy, you instead look like this guy. And so you've seen an improvement from where you are to where you are now, but you're trying to get over here. It seems like you're doing all the right things with your training, diet, and recovery. And yes, that got you from where you are to where you are now, but you want to take it to the next level. So what's stopping you? Well, if you remember from earlier, to get good at working out, because I see working out as a skill, like anything, to get good at any skill requires volume. If you've ever played competitive sports, you didn't get good at your sport playing once or twice a week. You played 5, 6, 7 days a week in order to build up the skills to be good at that sport. And those skills were built through volume. There's a little concept that I like called the accordion of quality and quantity. And so this applies to getting jacked, it applies to getting good at sports, it applies in business, it applies in content a lot too, the videos that you're watching now. If I don't really know how to draw an accordion, but let's just say it's that, okay? How this accordion works is that it starts off really close together. And then you stretch out the accordion, bringing out more quantity. You bring it back in, you have more quality, quantity, quality, quantity, quality, quantity, quality. The quantity here is the volume. The quality that we're looking for is the intensity of your training. And so, in order to become a better trainer, a better lifter, to improve this skill, you have to do a lot of volume in order to improve at this intensity. But what happens when you're doing so much volume to get good at intensity? Well, over time, the many sets you do per workout to build more muscle eventually result in you building more muscle, so you get those physique results. The reason that you've now plateaued and you cannot get to that next stage is because of the very thing that brought you there. You've now trained with enough volume to get so good at working out that your intensity is now way higher per set that you do for every single workout. And if you've gotten to this point where you're training super hard, you're training to failure, you can feel the muscle brutally stretching and contracting, you've gotten to a point where you've achieved the ability to train very intensely, but you're also training with that same high volume that got you to that stage in the first place. Just so you know, there is no such thing as high intensity and high volume training. Eventually, if we play both out, one becomes the price of the other. And so you can't have high intensity. Think of this if you were to stop watching this video and then you get up and you sprint 5 miles as fast as you possibly can. You might be able to do the first mile, but after the first mile, you might slow down. Your pace is going to diminish. That means that the intensity of your running is going down in order to compensate for the extra volume of running. That's why you see sprinters not running long distance running, and that's why you see long distance runners not sprinting their races, right? One becomes the price of the other. And so you have to drop one in order to keep one of them going. Which one do you think you drop? The answer, every single time, is volume. Volume of training. If you remember our accordion of quality and quantity, right now, you're stretched out here. You stretched out the accordion. Now you got to bring it back in order to focus on more quality of training. Because if you're training 6 days a week with 3 to 4 working sets per exercise, all to failure, you're never going to be able to recover from that, especially as a natural guy. Even most enhanced guys can't do that. And so you have to bring the accordion back in, meaning we lower this volume. This goes from high volume training to low volume training. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. This constraint is lifted, and so we can train balls to the walls as hard as we possibly can with low volume. Once you do this, you're going to see a massive difference in your ability to recover between workouts and your ability to get stronger every single workout. If you're tracking your lifts, you're going to notice those strength gains on a weekly basis. But eventually you get to a point now where the accordion is pulled in and we're focused on quality, that you bring it back out to get more quantity. That is when you increase volume. And it doesn't mean go from low to high. It means adding a set every now and again. Or if you don't want to add a set, maybe you slow down the tempo of each rep. Fundamentally, if you do the same amount of reps, the same amount of sets, but every rep is 2 seconds slower, that is progressive overload of volume. You could also do high frequency, meaning you don't do more sets per workout, but you do more workouts per week. So maybe you go from 3 workouts a week to 4. What I don't recommend is that you do high intensity training, balls to the walls, supersets, drop sets, 3 sets per exercise, and then try to do that 6 days a week. You will never recover and you will lose muscle. And I can put up my picture here. This was me when I first started lifting. This was me around 3 years in. I gained 77.2 pounds in between these 2 pictures, which is pretty ridiculous in 3 years naturally. What happened then is that I then got to a point where I was doing that same high volume that I started with, but now with much better intensity. And so I didn't realize that I had to drop this volume down in order to recover and compensate for the better intensity. What I did was I was stretching out the accordion of quality and quantity at the same time to the point where it broke. And then I got really sick. I lost a little bit of muscle. And so when I dialed back the volume, I kept the same intensity, but I went from 6 workouts a week to 2. Then my strength shot up to the sky. I started gaining muscle back super quickly. I was getting big, I was getting full, I was getting strong. I didn't feel sick all the time. If you start to do this high intensity, high volume stuff, you might develop flu-like symptoms. Maybe recently you've had sore throats, runny noses, a bit of a cough. It's not that you're sick, it's that your body is exhausted from the high intensity and high volume training. And I can speak about this so clearly because I lived it. So what I want you to do, if you feel like you're at this stage where your intensity is crazy, you're training super hard, harder than everybody else, but you know that you're training 2, 3, 4 working sets per exercise, 5, 6 days a week, I recommend that you drop it down. And my first course of action would be to drop down the amount of days you work out, go from 5 to 3. And once you have that accordion of quantity brought back down, you can focus on your quality of training. And then over time, as you get good at the quality, you add more quantity, you add more volume, add more frequency. And so if you feel like you're at the stage where you're doing high intensity and high volume and you're not recovering, you're getting weaker, you feel flat, you're losing your pumps, you feel like you're sick all the time, and you're not progressively looking better in the mirror, this could be a very good sign that you were training too hard, too much, and never trained less hard. Always keep that intensity. I mean, the reason why we did this high volume in the first place was to get to this point of high intensity. Now we're here. This has to come down. So if you feel like you're at that stage, I promise you there's nothing wrong with you. And all this stuff is what we call an intermediate plateau. So the things that worked for you in the beginning to get you your first gains, essentially, they're not always going to work forever. Your body is going to adapt. This is a huge sign of adaptation. Your body has now adapted to the way you train. And so you have to bring in that accordion of quantity, focus on quality training. As you get higher quality training, add more volume. And so you kind of go in and out like this. So if you started off small, you got pretty big, and then now you feel like you're not recovering in between your workouts, that's a very good sign to lower that volume. Feel free to try this out and let me know how it goes.